Now, Amber, pivoting a little bit, we're talking about proper strength training, proper nutrition, which lends itself to the idea of successfully toning up, which I think once upon a time, probably, I might be able to speak for both of us here, would have been something that we'd correct people on, like with our science background, like toning isn't technically a thing. And like but we know what people mean now. So I'd like to think we both gravitated away from that, not shaming people for wanting to tone up. But can you actually break down what toning up means compared to, say, leaning out or bulking up or getting shredded, getting ripped? Can you kind of clear that up? And then I would actually love to hear you talk about the 10 weeks to tone personal challenge you did and how you actually went about toning up during that time.
Yeah. So as you and I both know, muscle tone, the word tone is actually in reference towards a muscle's responsiveness to a stimulus. So when people are like, oh, I want to tone up, it's like, no, you don't. You're not looking to increase the responsiveness of your muscles, but you are looking probably to lose body fat and build muscle, also known as body recomposition. I have found that for newer lifters, this can happen very quickly and often simultaneously, the ability to lose body fat and build muscle. Your body's just kind of like, what is this? What's happening?
Adapt right away.
Exactly. And that's what happened to me when I started my journey all those years ago. Is my body was just like hyper responsive. It loved that I was feeding it more. It loved that I was, challenging it to lift heavy and work time under tension and all of these movement planes that I had never worked in before. And so absolutely my body was like, let's just pull from these stored muscle fat and build muscle simultaneously. And that's great for a while, usually a year or 2 years if you're really lucky. And then you're like, wait, this isn't as easy. And I think you kind of have to make a choice of, okay, where am I in my body? Things have obviously changed if you are, have done a recomp or that initial getting off the ground. And it's, okay, do I want to lose body fat or do I want to build muscle? And I think so often, especially women, we're like, we need to lose body fat. We gotta drop fat, just get as lean as humanly possible and stay there.
At all times from now until forever, just lifelong dieters.
Yeah, and you see these poor women, and I see these athletes who are stuck in these perma diets where it's living on 1,400 calories, and oh yeah, I'm doing cardio in the morning and I'm weightlifting in the afternoon, and I've seen my dancers who are, and in between my morning cardio and my evening lift, I'm dancing 8 hours a day, and yeah, I'm pulling in about 1,200, 1,400 calories a day. Why am I not losing weight? I just want to tone up. What's going on? Um, we have to look outside of, okay, what are you doing for your body? What are we asking our body to do? And what can we instead do for our bodies? Reverse dieting and focusing on metabolic health and hormonal health has been a really big passion of mine this past year, especially because it's especially for people who menstruate. You just have to focus on hormones, and if you're always at baseline calorie intake and asking your body to be at 150% every day, you're running on fumes without even realizing it. And I did that for so many years in my professional dance training, where I was just like, yeah, wake up, black coffee, go and dance for 8 hours, maybe have a half a salad for lunch or half a cup of yogurt, and then go and dance for 4 more hours. And I felt like I was at war with my body. But it's because my body was screaming out for me to help it. It was asking for energy. It was asking for rest. And I think those are so many things that, regardless of if you're trying to lose body fat or you're trying to build muscle, if you're overtraining, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to stay stuck in that rut. So getting very clear with your intention of, okay, am I in a place where I can eat in a calorie deficit for a set amount of time, or eat in a calorie surplus for a set amount of time and follow a structured plan for that same amount of time, and trust that my body will adapt at its own pace, that I can't rush the process. And again, hopefully you're relying on a coach to help guide you through that. Yeah, that's I lost my train of thought, but I think that's the bigger point of toning, is that we we can see tone initially, with those newbie gains and just that fresh, oh, I'm doing something different and my body loves that different thing. And I think that's why people are so apt to jump from diet to diet, is because, well, this new thing worked once, so this other new thing will probably work. So this other new thing will probably work. And it's, instead of that, it's actually, okay, no, I don't need something new, but I do need consistency, and I do need a plan and a vision to get to where I want to be, whether that is fat loss or muscle gain.
And what did that look like for you with the 10 weeks to tone that you eventually, it was kind of like a personal challenge, you would call it, right? That you did. So how did you apply these things? Like, were you focusing on at that time, your metabolic health, your hormonal health, how you were fueling your body, those workouts? How did you maximize those 10 weeks? And to backtrack, can you tell us what the objective was a little bit, create a little context?
Yeah, absolutely. So my 10 to tone happened last fall of 2020. And honestly, I just hadn't dieted for a while. I had not been in a calorie deficit with a coach and a plan, and just to see, like, I know I've put muscle on my frame. I know my body is very different than the last time that I did a strict structured diet, which was probably 2017, so it'd been like 3 years. So to see, and I really like dieting because you can see, just to kind of like excavate. Like, I kind of think of like when archaeologists go out and they're like looking for dinosaur bones, and they're like digging and taking away like the dust and seeing what's underneath. That's what I like, the feeling that I get when I'm dieting, is like, oh, I'm excavating, like, what's under here.
Let's see what I worked for. Absolutely.
Exactly. But also, as a coach, it was really important for me to remember and remind myself that, like, dieting is hard. Like, being in a structured calorie deficit, it's not always pleasant. There is a lot of forethought that comes into it, tracking your macros strategically and implementing those daily habits necessary for that calorie deficit. Like, there's a lot of thought that goes in there. It's mentally taxing, it's emotionally taxing. And I wanted to refresh myself with my client experience mostly. And so, yeah, I hired a coach from South Africa, just a friend of a friend, who I was like, yeah, all right, let's do this. But yeah, before we even started, I just tracked my general intake for 2 weeks. Because, like I said, I wasn't dieting. But again, I was just relying on habits that I had built, just intuitive eating, which I think is so important for just maintenance of lifestyle. And so I just tracked my calorie intake and looked at what I was doing. And then I was able to report to my coach, and I was like, okay, this is what we have to work with. You take the reins from here. And yeah, for 10 weeks, we focused on just eating in that calorie deficit, and being very consistent. And I documented the whole thing with, oh, I can see I'm losing weight through my shoulders, or body fat through my shoulders, but nothing's happening in my tummy yet. Or, the measurements around my thighs haven't changed, but my boobs have gotten smaller. And just kind of reassuring people that, like, weight loss is tricky. There's so many things that are out of your control, but just leaning into the process and trusting the process. And it's not always going to be as astounding as we think it is. I think over the course of 10 weeks, I lost 5 pounds, which, again, being a very petite woman, like, that's like
excellent. Yeah, that's like a good percentage of your body weight for sure.
But I think, people see these crazy transformations online or as part of, whatever trend is going around. And it's like, Bill lost 30 pounds in 30 days. And you're like, well, why can't I? Well, one, you probably don't have 30 pounds to lose, at least not with the individuals that I coach. And secondly, like, you maybe don't even need to lose that much.
What did Bill's after photo look like? Great. These are 4 weeks apart. He lost a shit ton of water weight. He lost, a little bit of muscle, a little bit of fat. Show me 4 weeks from now when he's not eating 1,200 calories.
Exactly. So yeah, that was my 10 to tone, and the whole thing was documented, which was kind of scary because I I don't know. I hold myself to a different standard than most Instagram influencer type peoples. I'm not the one always posting in like my bikini pictures and like booty shots. Like that's not like, if that's you, good for you, but like that's not me. But yeah, so to stand in front of my audience in my underwear like once a week and be like, here's where we are. It was really scary, but it also felt really liberating to, again, just kind of tell my audience like, this is the process. I'm doing all of the right things. And 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, nothing is happening. The fourth week, oh, I dropped 1 pound. Like that, you just have to trust that that you are doing all of the right things and that your body will react when it's ready. And so that was my 10 to tone.